morning, everybody. Despite Barbara's introduction, I think this is quite a formidable challenge because I am being asked to talk to a group of experts about something that you all know a lot more about than me. But nevertheless, in the next few minutes, I'd like to try and put into context a little bit nuclear energy in Central Europe, or what we call emerging Europe. Since my first arrival in Poland 30 years ago, I have watched with fascination and admiration the evolution of this region from central planning and communism to market economies and democracy during 3 tours of duty here and 1 in Romania. I very well understand the immense challenges that have already been overcome. But the reality is that in the 21st century we face a complex series of new challenges. How to overcome the current Eurozone crisis and its impact on business and industry. How to restore the EU to the path of sustainable growth. How to tackle the global threat of climate change and reduce emissions. Part of the answer to all these questions lies in modernising our energy sectors and developing the right energy mix in each of our countries. As everybody in this room knows, energy is fundamental to our way of life and to ensuring future economic growth. To meet these needs in future, it has to be secure, affordable and greener. As Barbara Judge has already said, energy security is vital. A lot of the world's energy resources are located in countries that suffer from political or climatic turbulence. Supply routes are vulnerable to conflict, terrorism or natural disasters, and our energy mixes need to take this very much into account. Let's be clear, affordability is important too. That very clearly is a key political issue. All of us face increased bills, but for some, fuel poverty is a desperate problem, especially in temperatures like that right outside here today. Industry too needs fair prices in order to remain competitive in the global marketplace, and there's a lot of discussion of that here in Poland. Although I think we do need to be clear that energy prices are only one element of a competitive economic base. And very clearly, as we renew our energy networks, we also need to move away from a reliance on fossil fuels as we in Europe work to meet the EU's targets and safeguard our planet. This has become even more important as we strive to find a way out of the global economic crisis and create a sustained low-carbon growth path in Europe. As we move forward, access to secure and sustainable energy supplies will be key to our future prosperity. And I think it's vital to recognise that these are completely globally shared challenges and that all of us have a part to play. To meet the energy security and diversification challenges, nuclear, shale and renewables are all potential solutions in a broader map which is developing here in Europe. The gas market, for example, has been transformed in recent years and opened up new energy opportunities, as reflected, for example, by Poland's decision to build a new LNG terminal in Świnoujście. Equally, the right access arrangements and a competitive energy market structure are clearly key to creating the sustainable energy network that's fundamental to the development of Central Europe's economy as it is in the UK. There's a long way to go before we fully meet EU energy directives. Yet a road needs to be followed which aligns energy modernisation with economic growth, competitiveness and the mandate of climate change requirements. Put that together, it's very easy to say, much harder to do. So in this region, a broad framework is required to deliver a coordinated solution. That requires, just as in the UK, leadership, government-to-government cooperation and government-industry alignment and engagement. For the UK and many other countries in this room, we believe that nuclear energy must continue to be part of our long-term energy mix. Let me briefly set out something about the UK approach to nuclear and wider energy policy and its relevance to the discussions at your forum. In the UK, nuclear energy is part of our low-carbon generation strategy. But as everybody knows, the 9 plants still left in service in the UK are reaching the end of their life. We are pressing ahead with their replacement, but that involves 3 big challenges, all of which I think are relevant here too. 1, getting the price right without state subsidy. 2, getting plants built on time and on budget. And 3, making sure we maximise the economic benefits, in our case to the UK, in terms of skills, jobs and manufacture. And that is very important here in this region too. In the UK, we're working very much with the private sector to deliver the new plants. We continue to invest in nuclear decommissioning, and we also need to assess whether there is a commercially viable proposition for turning nuclear waste into fuel for the next generation of reactors. I think we're all clear that we haven't yet got all the answers to the question of nuclear waste. We also recognise that you have to get the electricity market right if you are to encourage investors to invest in nuclear energy at a time when credit is in pretty short supply. Also, renewable energy is an important component in a balanced energy mix. For us, that means offshore wind for hard-headed reasons. The complexities of trying simultaneously to do renewable energy, nuclear, and renew more other sources such as gas, I think are one of the other huge challenges that we face. Just doing nuclear would be difficult. Trying simultaneously to do nuclear, renewable, and build new gas power stations reminds us of the scale of the challenge. As in this region too, support for growth is key. Our aim is to deliver our policies in a way that maximises the benefits to the economy in terms of jobs, growth and investment. We know the need for consensus and communication. With this experience, we believe we are a strong partner for this region. The strategic development of our sector is clearly not without challenges, and I think what's quite key is that we work together. Already our regulators, scientists and companies engaged in the nuclear life cycle are working together to identify mutually beneficial opportunities. I think key to this process is aligning tried and trusted experience and competency with new ideas into a local setting to enable the countries in this region to deliver and develop local nuclear industries themselves. It is critically important in our view that nuclear leaves behind a positive legacy. But let's also not underestimate the undertaking. It brings with it a huge need for local development, reskilling and construction excellence. The role of a partner here is experience and enablement delivered in a way which supports every country's own sustainability. After all, nuclear is not, as in the good old days in this region, a 5-year plan, or even a 50-year plan. It's a 200-year commitment. I think this region, with its existing experience in civil nuclear and its reputation for being able to tackle new challenges, is well positioned. From our perspective, nuclear is a real component of the region's new energy mix, a bridge to cleaner energy, a shift from fossil fuels, and part of a structure which provides the region with an independence which has hitherto not been possible. Many people say, but where will they get the investment? That is a real issue. However, we believe that with the right market frameworks, people will recognise the opportunity that investment in nuclear in this region represents. But getting regulation, the regulatory and local skills framework, right is critical. A fully integrated approach The right support frameworks are crucial, and long-term political commitment is clearly key. The UK, as everyone in this room knows, played a pioneering role in the global civil nuclear industry. Some of the leading characters are in this room today. We've had a thriving industry in the nuclear sector since the 1950s, and nowadays the industry spans the full nuclear life cycle from the design of new plant through to decommissioning and waste management. And we are very actively engaged in many of the new nuclear power facilities being built across the world. In particular, we have recognised the importance of being able to cope with the kind of situations described by Lady Barbara in terms of 3 Mile Island or Fukushima. So we believe that our experience is second to none across the whole life cycle. Our backbone is a neutral approach. We are not wedded to any specific nuclear reactor technology. We are therefore able to focus more on delivery and the vital components of an in-depth supply chain, the fundamental components of which are a comprehensive regulatory framework, a serious approach to local skilling, and a life cycle which delivers and decommissions. From my perspective, as I said before, absolutely key to this is partnership. There are many countries present in this room with nuclear experience. I think what we learnt from the very beginning was that although the private sector firms in this room will inevitably, when it comes to a particular nuclear reactor, end up in competition, that at key stages in this process we are talking much more about collaboration than we are about competition, because unless we can ensure public confidence in the nuclear framework, then in the long term there is no future for our industry. Let me just say a word about safety. There is an important meeting going on in Japan this week, which I think underlines the recognition that this is a global issue. But let me say a quick word about the UK approach. Nuclear safety and resilience remains paramount. The provisions in our new energy bill provide the means to establish and sustain a modern independent nuclear regulator based on the better regulation principles of transparency, accountability, proportionality, targeting and consistency. Our aim is to ensure that all nuclear sites are safe and secure, including the legacy sites where, whilst remediation is continuing. I think this means ensuring a robust safety and security framework for nuclear sites, ensuring the overall effectiveness of the UK regime and input into European and international policy, coordinating the national response in the case of an emergency at a civil nuclear site, ensuring that a framework is in place for the safe transmission of nuclear waste, but most of all, working within the UK and overseas to reduce risks to national and global security. Post-Fukushima, like everybody else, we carried out an independent review of nuclear. The progress report that UK industry and other stakeholders have responded well to the lessons learnt from Fukushima. But this is an area where I think there's no room for complacency and a real need for international collaboration. And I think the IAEA has a very important role to play here. In conclusion, I think this nuclear forum is very timely. Energy security and diversification is high on the global agenda, particularly in this region given historical factors, and is taking place against the backdrop of the decision to extend the Kyoto Protocol to 2020, which is a reminder of just how key the right energy mix is to tackling climate change. The UK is committed to nuclear energy. We look forward to working with you here today to ensure that it can be produced safely, cost effectively and sustainably in the UK, Central Europe and beyond. Thank you very much.